Diddy Combs' release date from prison has now been set. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Combs is expected to be released on May 8th of 2028.
Sean Diddy Combs has lived many lives. Music icon, entrepreneur, and one of the most influential figures in hip-hop. But in recent years, his story has taken a very different turn. Once celebrated for shaping pop culture, he's now at the center of one of the most closely watched legal sagas in entertainment. Rumors about a possible pardon from Donald Trump have only added to the tension. The president's remarks, followed by an official denial from the White House, left fans and critics debating whether politics and celebrity might collide once again. Some see it as a long shot, others see it as a test of influence and connections. And now, after months of speculation, the Bureau of Prisons has made it official. Diddy's release date is no longer a mystery. According to federal records, he is scheduled to be released on May 8th, 2028, a date that has reignited debate over justice, privilege, and what accountability really looks like for the rich and famous. Sean Diddy Combs has been a major name in entertainment for more than 3 decades. He built an empire that stretched far beyond music, from fashion and alcohol brands to television and cultural events. For many, Diddy represented ambition, creativity, and the power of reinvention. He went from being a young intern at Uptown Records to one of the richest and most recognizable figures in the music industry. But with fame came controversy. Over the years, Diddy's name appeared in headlines not just for his success, but also for lawsuits, public disputes, and stories about his personal behavior. What started as rumors eventually grew into full investigations. Federal prosecutors accused him of organizing events that crossed legal boundaries and of exploiting his power for personal gain. These were serious accusations that threatened everything he had built. During the trial, prosecutors pushed for a sentence of more than 11 years, while his defense team argued for less than 2. In the end, Diddy received a 50-month prison sentence in about 4 years. The court noted both the gravity of the case and the charges for which he had been acquitted. For many observers, it was a complicated outcome, harsh enough to mark accountability, yet far lighter than what many had expected. This verdict placed Diddy at the center of a larger discussion, one about wealth, celebrity, and the justice system. Can someone with money and power ever be judged the same way as anyone else? That question has followed his case from the courtroom to the headlines, shaping how the public now views not just his legacy, but the fairness of the system itself. Life behind bars has been a harsh reality for Sean Diddy Combs. Since entering the federal system, reports and rumors about his prison experience have painted a troubling picture. According to several outlets and statements from former inmates, the facility where he's being held is far from comfortable. Overcrowded, understaffed, and often unsafe. Some former prisoners have described violence and intimidation as part of daily life. They say fights break out over small disagreements, and access to medical care or basic supplies can be inconsistent. Inmates also claim that celebrities rarely receive special treatment for long. Once inside, status means little. Rumors even spread online that Diddy had faced threats and altercations with other inmates early in his stay, though officials have not confirmed any incidents. Beyond physical danger, the psychological toll is heavy. The transition from mansions and private jets to confined spaces and strict routines has reportedly been difficult. Ex-inmates who once served in the same facility have spoken publicly, calling it one of the toughest prisons in the system, despite being labeled low security. For someone used to power and control, this environment has been described as humbling and brutal. Whether the stories of violence are fully true or exaggerated, they've shaped public perception, showing that even a global icon can't escape the harshness of prison life. The turning point in Diddy's story didn't come from a new headline or courtroom drama. It came from a number. After months of speculation, federal prison records revealed when he is expected to walk free. That moment shifted the conversation from guilt and punishment to time and fairness. For the public, the revelation felt like a final piece of a long and confusing puzzle. The Bureau of Prisons officially listed Diddy's projected release date, May 8th, 2028. It was a straightforward update, but its meaning carried weight. Supporters saw it as confirmation that his case was moving forward like any other, with standard credit for good behavior and time already served. Critics, however, saw something else. Another example of how fame and power might influence justice. The date sparked strong reactions online. Some said it was too soon, arguing that Diddy's influence and resources may have helped him get favorable treatment. Others pointed out that good conduct time is common in federal cases and applies to most inmates who follow prison rules. At the same time, Diddy's lawyers filed an an appeal, claiming the judge unfairly considered allegations that the jury had already rejected. This argument about whether a sentence can include conduct tied to acquitted charges became a major legal debate. So while the release date gave a sense of clarity, it also reopened old questions about fairness. Was this a standard procedure or a sign of privilege? The answer, as always with Diddy, depends on who you ask. But one thing became certain: the countdown had begun. After Diddy's release date became public, the reaction was immediate. News outlets reported it within hours, and social media exploded with opinions. For some, it was a sign that justice was being served. For others, it was proof that the powerful still play by different rules. The debate quickly grew beyond one man's sentence. It became a national conversation about privilege, punishment, and power. Then came the political twist. Rumors began to spread that President Donald Trump might consider pardoning Diddy. Trump himself made comments suggesting that Diddy had reached out to him.
Sean Diddy Combs,
right?
Would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do. He's still in jail or something, but
Yep.
He was celebrating a victory.
But soon after, the White House issued a clear denial. The back and forth created confusion and controversy. Was it a misunderstanding, political theater, or something more? Whatever the truth, the idea of a possible pardon gave new life to the story, turning a legal case into a political headline. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team continued working behind the scenes. They requested that he be transferred to a low-security prison in New Jersey, a facility with better access to rehabilitation programs and family visits. His lawyers said this would help with recovery and reintegration. Critics, however, called it another example of celebrity privilege, arguing that regular inmates rarely have such flexibility. As the media cycle spun on, the details of Diddy's sentence became symbols for bigger issues: how punishment works, who gets second chances, and whether justice truly looks the same for everyone. What started as a simple prison record update had now become something far larger, a mirror reflecting how society sees fame, fairness, and accountability. When we step back and look at the whole story of Sean Diddy Combs, it becomes a mirror of larger tensions: fame, justice, power, and fairness. On one side, there is the legal record, a jury that rejected the most serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking, yet found him guilty of 2 counts of transporting individuals for prostitution. On the other side, there is the public perception of celebrity privilege, questions about whether someone with his resources and status ever faces the same standards as everyone else. One issue that stands out is the idea of acquitted conduct. In his case, the judge considered evidence of behavior for which the jury found him not guilty. Critics argue that is unfair, that a person should not be punished for conduct jurors rejected. Supporters of the sentence say the law allows it and the judge weighed the full story. That legal fault line highlights how the system tries to balance individual rights with evidence of harm. Then there is the role of celebrity itself. Diddy's name means headlines, influence, and brand deals. That light brings scrutiny. Some view his relatively shorter sentence, compared to what he might have faced, as evidence of leniency. Others see it as a straight result of plea, conviction, and process. Either way, his case forces a question. When a superstar joins the system, does the system bend or hold firm? Finally, the story raises a bigger question about public trust. The same tools of law, good conduct credits, program participation, appeals, apply to many. But when seen through the lens of wealth and fame, they feel different. Observers ask, are the rules the same for everyone? Diddy's case doesn't offer a simple answer. It instead shows how justice and spectacle collide, and how viewers must decide where they stand. As of now, 3 main things could shape what happens next for Diddy. First, there's the official prison timeline. Unless something changes, Diddy is expected to complete his sentence and be released on May 8th, 2028. That date could shift slightly depending on his conduct in prison. Federal inmates can lose or gain time based on their behavior, and participation in certain rehabilitation programs can also reduce their sentence. His legal team has already requested that he join a treatment and education program that could shorten his stay even further. Second, there's the appeal. His lawyers argue that the judge unfairly used information related to charges that the jury dismissed. If a higher court agrees, it could mean a new sentencing hearing or even a shorter prison term. But these legal processes take time, often months or even years, and the outcome is far from certain. The third factor is public and industry reaction. Even after his release, Diddy's future in music and business will depend on how people perceive him. Some fans believe he can rebuild, while others think his reputation may never recover. Many brands and partners have already distanced themselves. In the end, Diddy's next chapter will depend not only on the legal system, but also on how society decides to remember him, as a fallen mogul, a changed man, or a symbol of how fame and justice collide. In the end, this story is about more than one man's release date. It's about what happens when fame, money, and justice collide in public view. Diddy's name has always been tied to success, but now it's also tied to accountability and to the question of whether the system treats everyone the same. May 8th, 2028 will mark the end of his sentence, but not the end of the debate. Some will see his time served as proof that justice can reach even the most powerful. Others will see it as another example of how fame can soften consequences. Between now and then, his life will continue to unfold quietly behind prison walls, while the world outside keeps watching. Because when the spotlight fades, the question remains, what does freedom mean after everything that came before?